Welcome to Luxury Icons, the marketing and PR podcast created by the Luxury Communications Council. I'm Rosie Shepherd, the founder of the Luxury Communications Council, the world's only membership network dedicated to advancing the global luxury industry by uniting, supporting and championing marketing communication leaders. This podcast is dedicated to meeting some of the industry's most prolific leaders, delving into the challenges and opportunities that we face together. Welcome to the Luxury Icons. Today we are honoured to introduce a visionary leader whose influence has truly shaped the luxury landscape. Matteo Atti is the Chief Marketing Officer of Vista Global, the world's largest on-demand private aviation group known for VistaJet and XO. Matteo's 25 years in luxury is marked by pivotal roles at iconic brands. He commenced his luxury career in fashion with major brands such as Gucci, Bottega Veneta and Paul Smith, in varying roles from global marketing to business development. Another role took him into the tech space with Nokia, spearheading communication campaigns across 160 countries. He joined VistaJet nearly 5 years ago as Chief Marketing Officer and was clearly doing many things right as he was swiftly promoted to lead the global team at group level for Vista Global. Matteo, welcome to Luxury Icons. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
I should start by saying that we actually know each other quite well because Matteo was actually a founding member of LCC, but also VistaJet are a PR client of ours at Shepherd Communications, my consultancy. So I have a little bit of inside scoop on the brand. But before we get to that, I'd love to start with you, if you don't mind, and hear more about your career to date and I guess how you crossed industries from fashion to private aviation.
Well, I'm a curious person. And the beauty of marketing is that it allows you to look at people in the eyes and try to do something that could capture their imagination. And I think moving from category to category, but always staying in the high net worth individual level is what has been exciting about my career so far. And that what keeps me motivated to find new ways to be relevant, I guess, for a group of customers that is the most sought after.
Indeed they are, and we'll come to talk about that in much more depth in a moment. First of all, though, are you able to give us a little bit of context of where VistaJet falls in the private jet landscape? I guess it is quite a different model to the sort of usual charter proposition.
Charter proposition is what most people would be familiar with, right? You are looking for a plane and you're trying to get the right aircraft type at a decent price. Private aviation is, of course, a high price ticket. So it serves a niche of customers. What people might not appreciate from the outside is how many levels of quality and types of service you have in private aviation. So as you say, it starts from charter, but then it moves up. You can start selecting higher quality aircraft, newer quality aircraft, higher level of service. And then you get into the world of the big brands. And when you get at a Vista level, that is where you have a consistency on the fleet. So you know exactly what is waiting for you on the tarmac. You get global coverage. You can go anywhere with us at any time, because what we offer is guaranteed availability of an aircraft for our members, which means that is as owning your own aircraft. In fact, possibly even better, because you don't need to worry about anything that has to do with the aircraft. You don't need to buy it. You don't need to put down the capital, the 20 to 70 million that it costs to acquire an aircraft. You don't need to make sure that your crew is available every single day of the year. You don't need to worry about which permits you need to obtain to fly anywhere you want. And that is just the start. On top of that, you start putting that the price is fixed during the negotiations. You don't need to worry about how much is it going to cost me throughout the rest of the year. I think what you get with VistaJet is the epitome of what flying private should be. Is just simple. Once you decide what matters to you, it's going to be there. And you can just move on with your life.
I'm sold. Okay, done. I will only fly Vista, of course. I want to stay thinking about your sort of prior career for a little while. I'd love to hear about sort of what you feel have been some of your biggest accomplishments or proudest moments.
Ooh, from a marketing perspective or a life?
Well, marketing ideally, but what's perhaps a particular campaign, perhaps a particular moment? I know you were part of the sort of Tom Ford era of Gucci, which must have been, that must have been a seriously incredible time.
An incredible school. When it was the first luxury group to come out. And it was amazing to see how the raw talents were starting to write the playbooks. And in those days, we were trying to work on luxury to not just be for an elite, which is a bit of an oxymoron, but it worked, right? When you were in Gucci in the 80s, it was for a few hundred people in Florence, few hundred people in New York. That was it. And then it became what it became, right? And a 10 billion company. You can only do that via guidelines and big scaling modeling. So you need to go in with a very clear direction, never changing your mind, and going in and have the certainty of how do I achieve that across every single market. And I think where I am today is quite the opposite. It's saying, forget that.
Okay.
Forget the uniformed world where the brand is the story. The client is the story, and your brand needs to fit into that story. So I think luxury is going around from being about the one-to-one boutique moment, whether it was fashion or beauty or anything else, and then it became the moment where the brand was saying, I am the authority, and you just need to want me. And now we're going back into more the boutique element again of, let me say yes to whatever you need, and let's see if I'm the right partner for you, right? So it's going back to that, and I think that the top end of the customers is still reveling and looking for that, because it's kind of lost. It's kind of lost its way because all the language of the mega luxury brands have become a little bit expected and not natural anymore.
That's
it's
really
becoming a bit
interesting.
cliche. And that is the difficulty, right, of establishing a real relationship. Then no surprise, loyalty is gone.
So just thinking about marketing and thinking about where, your focus, it's obviously a very broad discipline. It encompasses campaigns, activations, content, storytelling, all of which falls under your leadership. How do you define marketing at Vista Global, and what does it mean for the brand?
I've worked in many industries, as you said. So when I started in private aviation, I realized that it was maybe a simpler world because it's so price-centric as an industry, because the price is elevated. There was very little done on the marketing side apart from saying we have a plane. What we set out to do was to start moving out of the traditional categories of the industry. It's not just about the reach of the aircraft, it's not just about the manufacturer of the aircraft. And we try to turn it on its head and putting the customer first, trying to understand what does matter to Rosie when she's traveling. Well, she wants to be in a place that she recognizes as her own. So what can we do there? Can we promote the fact that the cabin feels familiar? Who is she traveling with? Is she traveling for work? Is she traveling on business, with business partners? Is she traveling with a family? And we started building up programs and services, both from a product business model and the way it works, but also on the way it serves you during the flight, that make you feel like it was the only possible choice for that. So when you turn this on your head and the product is described not as a piece of metal that flies, but as an extension of your home, an extension of your day-to-day life. The whole marketing goes into how can we make it feel seamless and naturally and organically integrated into the lifestyle. So we started working with yacht partners. We started working with destination partners. We started working with a service provider from the hospitality world to bring the level of the cabin to the same level you would find at a 5-star penthouse. And that is where I think we changed the narrative and the way people are looking at the industry from a commodity into something you want in your life, from a necessity to a choice. On the opposite side, though, you have to also consider that the number of clients we're trying to approach is limited. There's 20,000 odd aircraft out there, and so 20,000 odd aircraft owners, and maybe a few 100,000 people all over the world that fly private. We're talking about a very, very small niche. So the second part of the marketing was, after having a message that can cut through to people because it addresses the real needs, not the mechanical needs and the mechanical requirements and the features, is trying to identify where they are and how can you engage with them in a natural way in their own environment. And that is the hard part, right?
Absolutely. And it's obviously been a big year for you, and you introduced numerous programs to try and support this. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've been up to this past year? What are your big achievements?
Well, 2024, I think the team has been very busy and also very successful. The market was slightly contracting or remaining pretty much on par, and we grew double digit once again, which means that for the past 20 years, we've been winning market share year after year after year. You know our PR, right? So that was an incredible year. 16,000 articles written about us, 180 billion reach. It was just, people talked about us, which in return means that more people find you organically, less advertising required, because people are just curious about what are these guys up to. So that was great. We managed to start going through the segmentation of our client audiences and their preferences and their passions so much more that our emails are actually read. Can you imagine that? Overall, we grew because we spent a lot of time and a lot of effort trying not to be generic. And that means that we won every possible award. We won 8 awards in 12 months. There's not many awards for private aviation, believe me. It's hard to find them.
Again, niche.
Very niche, very, very niche. So for us, it's a recognition of the status we've built for Vista, but also of the care that everyone in the team puts to do just the right thing for our customers.
So these offerings, there are parcels of packages essentially, but essentially you've got Adventures in the Sky, you've got VistaJet Wellness, you've got VistaPet, love that name, hilarious. But they're a sort of catch-all, but for very bespoke experiences. But I'd love to know, how granular can you actually get with this personalisation? How far can you go? And can you share some of the most unique experiences that you've enabled for your customers?
Well, our private world platform has about 600 partners. 600 partners that we've selected and work with us from buying a house, destination partners, what to eat tonight, taking care of your pet, studying abroad for your kids, all the way down to finding the perfect yacht or securing a one-to-one meeting with a fashion designer because you really love what they're doing, or because you need something very urgently and just need access, right? So for us, the point is always trying to not have an opinion about what is ultimately what an ultra high net worth individual requires, but having all the tools ready to be able to say yes. Do you fly with a pet? 1 in 4 clients fly with a pet.
Really?
When we started looking at those numbers, we said, well, then we need to do something around making a flight with a pet easy. 1 in 4 clients is flying with a kid. Okay, then what can we do to make a flight with a child easy? What is the child looking for? Imagination. We don't want them sitting with an iPad all day long, watching a movie that they've seen a million times. What else can we do to activate the relationships in the cabin? So we have put our cabin hosts through the training with a Norland College to understand family dynamics and try to understand how to interact with the people in the cabin at any given point. For the wellness, it was all about observing how tired these highly successful individuals are. You don't get to fly private just because you're lucky. You spend a lot of time and effort being the best at what you do. You need a time that you can reclaim as your own. So wellness, meaning finding a moment where you don't need to worry about anything, for us meant changing the pressure of the air, reducing the level of sounds and solicitation on your nervous systems, creating menus that can help you rejuvenate or relax, working with the lighting systems to reduce the jet lags. This is the level of personalizations you need to go to make a flight just right. I want them to say, I didn't even notice it.
Yeah.
It was just so good.
Yeah,
that is the best gift. The best gift is to say, you know what? That is time I reclaimed for myself. So I didn't just save half an hour because I skipped the queues at the airport. I didn't just save 1 hour because I could go to any aircraft I wanted and depart at the time I wanted. So the time saving becomes time well spent. And you reclaim the entire flight as time for yourself.
Well, perfect. And I'm sure that's so appreciated. But I'd love to hone in on this customer sort of in a more theoretical way, a bit more. So you mentioned, these remarkable individuals. This is the 0.00001%, say.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much, thereabouts. We've heard you say, and other people say, that actually to own an aircraft is actually the sort of competition to VistaJet. So actually, VistaJet customers can probably afford their own aircraft, but they choose
absolutely.
to because it's more convenient. I'd love to hone in on the customer in a bit more of a theoretical way. So, I mean, we're talking these really remarkable individuals. They're sort of the 0.00001%. How do you categorise these people?
Difficult questions, but very, very relevant. So the only thing that put these people together, and we're looking for VistaJet around the centimillionaire to billionaire, right? So it's not just ultra high net worth. We're looking at 3 times that. The only thing that they have in common really is the wealth level, because that is how they're categorized. There are men and women. They are from every country in the world. They have different cultures, tastes, religions, family situations, work situations, passions, etc. So there's nothing that puts them together apart from they can afford it. What they have in common is that they tend to be highly educated, highly intelligent, and more often than not, very, very private. They have a public persona. I would say 90% of them have a public persona. And when they come to us, instead, is the private persona that we meet, is the real person. And when you look at the real person, then they have real needs, and they have real affects, and they love somebody, and they really want to go and say hi, and they really want to celebrate a moment. They have their own ambitions, whether they are sport ambitions or business ambition, it doesn't matter. So for us, the way to try to understand how to work around the needs is first understand what makes them tick. And we have several interviews at the beginning. Initially, the conversation is normally about the rational part. Is what can you offer? Does it solve my needs? These are my flight needs. I fly a certain number of hours per year across these countries. Can you do it for me? And the answer is always yes. Once you go past that, so once you go past the can you do it? Yes. But how will you do it? And that is the moment where we start having interactions with them from our client services team, marketing team, private world team, and we try to meet with them and talk to them. And we create preference cards. We observe their behaviors even if they're not explicitly said. One of the biggest sources of data, everyone asks me about data. And I go, data about private individuals, it's high net worth individuals is hard to find, right? The biggest tool we have is our team in the cabin. They will pick up, they've been trained to pick up on gestures, things you do and things you don't. If they notice that 20 people in 2 months take something out of their bag because we didn't provide it, they would call us up and say, you know what, there's a group of people who ... do the following things. Is that something we can facilitate? So it's the constant observation. Constant observation. Last year we did 200 events. Realistically, maybe 5 would have been right for you and 5 for me. But we need to cater to every taste. So the reason why it took us so much time to get to this level of complexity is because you need to have a black book of resources that can allow you to say yes to pretty much everyone, whether it's from China, South America, US, Italy, Lebanon, South Africa, it doesn't matter. Can you say yes to their taste? And that is our biggest, it's really in our DNA. Everyone's mission is, can we say yes? And that is why I think people fall in love with it, because everyone's different and every flight is different. Think about it. When you wake up in the morning at Vista, you don't know where the next day the fleet will be.
I can't even imagine the complexity
Every morning
of this.
you have hundreds of aircraft ready for instructions, with crew ready, and they receive 80 pages, 100 pages of instructions on what to do today. And they have a luggage with them that is ready to go from the Sahara to Siberia and anything in between, and serve any possible customers. That knowledge that they have, the knowledge that they have and the care that they have to make this happen is something of magic.
Well, I mean, it all sounds extraordinary. But thinking about, we've had lots of luxury commentary in our industry at the moment about, ultra high net worth individuals and above behaviours changing.
Mm-hmm.
You say it's all very, very individualised, but are there sort of, I guess, new behaviours you see, new patterns, new trends that sort of you can generalise a little bit about?
Of course, there are some mega trends that we can observe. One is the hedonistic days are over. Consumption of alcohol has reduced dramatically. Consumption of requests for mega meals or more formal eating, etc., has reduced dramatically. There's a lot of search for comfort, as in make it familiar, make it easy, make it comforting. So that is another big one. The formality, even for the ultra high net worth, has reduced dramatically. I wouldn't say there's many new destinations, but the way the destinations are used is also different. We receive a lot more requests for things to do in a city that are not the obvious ones, for something with a special, different take. Whether it is because in the last 20 years, traveling has become much more common, so people have been to the places several times. So the fifth time you go to New York, maybe you want to see a different side of it, and it's not Statue of Liberty anymore. Or whether it is because in a globalized world where information is available at any point, you can do your own research, so you really just want to go and feel the truth of places. We've started to go below the postcard effect. And a lot more with a genuine connection to the places and the people you're meeting. There's a lot of research for I'm going to meet a special person and I'm going to discover more about it. So more of the enrichment and less of the surfacing. I think a lot of the surfing, we do it on Instagram and similar. And I think people, when they are traveling and putting the time in, they want something that can really change them, not just an extra picture.
Well, no, I mean, that's definitely universal across the sort of luxury travel trend as a whole. But thinking about behaviours when they're on the jet, are people, is quiet luxury prevailing? Are people posting from their jets, or is that all very, very discreet?
Super discreet.
Super discreet.
Super discreet. I mean, you had private aviation was seen as an achievement. It was a status symbol, owning your own jet, your first flight. So, of course, the first time you go on a flight, it is impressive. It is a completely different experience. And most people take pictures, but they do it for themselves and their few friends. There's less of a display of wealth going. And again, from the second, third, fourth flight, you notice immediately how people simply relax into it and just becomes a habit and becomes a normal thing. One thing that I didn't expect, for example, was during the pandemic, with commercial being down, a lot of people tried private aviation for the first time. And I always thought that a lot of these people, when the commercial availability or commercial aviation availability would come back, would simply flip back into commercial. The large majority of them stayed with private aviation. So really recognizing that, yes, the price difference is significant, even more than significant, but that the benefit they were getting from it was remarkable. And that is exactly that privacy and that personalization that allows you to reclaim the time, not as a neutral time, but as your time again. So that has changed a lot. I would say the large majority of people just want a smile and feeling the nurturing environment around them, with the freedom that it brings. Is this sensation that the wings are yours. That's a nice feeling.
And have you managed to get out and about quite a lot and jet around? Have
Admittedly, I've never had one flight where it was for me. So I've always been chaperoning clients, press, or guests, etc. But the difference is hard to explain. Hard to explain. So I would welcome any one of your podcast listeners to give it a try.
I'm sure. I'm sure everyone's willing. But this is about, obviously, marketing, right? So let's think about, so we've got these insights, we understand their behaviours. How then do we really, really tap into, how do we be where they are? How do we, speak their language? How do we really I guess, prove that we're part of their ecosystem and should be part of their world?
The first thing to notice is being the smartest people on earth and the most followed people on earth, you need to be honest. You cannot be too grand because they read through it. They know that it's not necessarily true. They want to see proofs. They want to see facts. They want to see the reality, and they want to be able to imagine whether it is right for them or not. So saving them time and going straight to the point is always very much appreciated. So speed and relevance, those are the two key elements. But then, of course, you have all the digital clues that people are leaving around that are becoming more and more critical, even in the luxury world. Where did you find them? We did a test on placing advertising in the middle of news feeds, but also at the same time monitoring which other apps they had on their phones to try to investigate and understand which content to play based on what they're also interested in. If it's a person with 10 travel apps on their phone, we'll play a destination story. If it is one with sports, we will play a story piece, right? So trying to really tap into, we know how the world is for you, that's why we can be your partner. And playing the partner card is much more appreciated than playing the broadcasting part of, we're the biggest, we're the boldest, we are the best. I think nobody appreciates arrogance. People are looking for themselves and they want to know whether you are the right fit. So going one step below and just looking at things that are maybe smaller but more relatable, and that really showcases that you understand what they're going through and what they need, has proven to be the right key to gather attention.
And has that way of working been true of all of your roles with working with these ultra high net worth individuals and above?
I would say so, because I've worked in CRM and I've worked in retail environments, and the point was always observing and measuring. When you're in a store, I need to observe where your eyes go and what you're really looking for, not what you're asking for. So reading the cues that your language, your body, your attitude leaves is critical to drive a conversation to a place where you will feel comfortable, because in reality, even if you didn't say it, is where you really want it to be. And that you can do with designing a space and how a shop layout is done. You can do it with designing products and even product information in a different way. Or you can do it by letting people see themselves using your product. So helping people visualize, that is critical. But also allowing them the time to get there without bombarding them constantly with messages, and giving them the time to feel comfortable into the space you prepared for them. And when they're ready, offer and ask, would you like to try it, right? So that has been something that is true from fashion to telecoms to everywhere else. It's a common thread of marketing that when you're just screaming your message, you can only hear yourself.
And staying on sort of the wider sector for a moment, let's talk about innovation. I know that's one of your favourite topics.
Always.
Where do you feel that luxury brands are currently falling short in this space? How would you champion or ask your peers to do more?
I think a lot of the innovation has been led by the PR teams.
True.
And that is
Very
a problem.
True.
Because when innovation is led by PR teams, is not necessarily something that really touches the customer, but that makes a headline and drives interest. But that interest can be fugacious. It can be a piece of entertainment. It can be a spike in your attention. Where I think a lot of the brands have kind of lost their way is falling in love with a spike in sale and wanting one spike in sale every single month. And the moment you take those away, your business goes back to your baseline. And that is where you go, oh my God, what is happening? Well, simply you didn't do one more thing. And that is your real customer base. What remains after the heyday of a big launch, that is your real customer base.
That makes sense, yeah.
Right? And so innovation for innovation's sake, or for having a big headline, is what I think we're a little bit paying for. So when people come to me and go, oh, what about AI at Vista? I said, well, we're looking at it from a completely different way. We have the best experts in the world. Can we power up our experts to be faster, more accurate, and provide an even better service? is not substituting people, it's giving them new tools. You give them a pen to write, you give them a computer to write, you give them wireless communications, and they can simply do a better job and make your clients, offer to your clients a level of service that they could never imagine before. That is what innovation is about. And it's also finding other moments where you can touch their lives, right? As we said before, is can you innovate in finding more moments when you are relevant? And you can only do it with technology. But a lot of people identify innovation with technology these days, and I think that is where the problem is, right? It's not applying a new tool. It's finding a new solution or identifying a new need. That is where you start your innovation.
That's a really interesting point, and actually something we touched on with Anushka from Soho House. Hospitality is not known for its innovation, and yet it meets its customers' needs again and again every time it adapts. That is true innovation. It doesn't have to be bells and whistles.
Absolutely. And a lot of the time you find these new hotels or these new restaurants that have the latest technology for ordering. I mean, do you remember when there was all the projections on the tables and you could order from the menus?
Couldn't bear it. Awful.
Not just because the technology wasn't fully ready, but even now that it's ready, it's a gimmick.
Yeah, of course.
You do it once, absolutely
lovely,
fine.
Hilarious.
Lovely, one fine, hilarious.
Yeah,
Take
yeah.
one picture. Yeah, okay,
Great,
do you want
done.
it again? No, done. Right?
No.
So that is exactly the kind of things. And in reality, we're all human beings. We're all moved by our own senses before our brain. So how you make people feel is more important than what they can verbalize or what you can write in a release or on a headline. Those are important, don't get me wrong. I mean, I love PR.
Good.
But also they are a device to get people to come closer to you, at which point you prove your real value.
Exactly. It has to be really strategic, not just tactical.
Absolutely.
We can't really do a podcast in 2025 without talking about AI.
Of course.
How has it unlocked positivity for you yourself as a marketing leader, or indeed for the brand?
I think what AI is giving us is more chances to test.
Yeah.
Definitely. You have more chances to get it wrong and faster and maybe find out what actually works with reduced cost. So it can release innovation and creativity because it costs less to try. And that is a beautiful thing, because when you spend 6 months concepting something and then another 6 months producing it and then it goes out and maybe it's late, you've lost the momentum, or you spent all your resources and you cannot go back. So it reduces the risk of the go-to-market flow dramatically.
Yes. Okay.
Secondly, you can plug in much more data than you could ever do with an Excel sheet. As much as we all love an Excel, of course, it's laborious. Well, AI will do that for you, and you simply need to create the right data sets that can feed a machine where you can put your insight and analyze your data much faster. So that means you can segment more. So that means you can create more ad hoc messaging. So the success, that's what I was saying, right? We increased our open rate of emails from 15% to 30% in 1 year.
Wonderful.
It's incredible. Simply because we spent more time analyzing the data behind the email before sending out that email, and because we can send out 8 million emails instead of 2 million emails, that means you can have each one of them exactly targeted to the group. Your results are incredibly more. Big surprise, if I go out on the street and I say, hey, or if I say, hi, Rosie, I have a higher chance of you turning your face, right, to me. So, again, obvious stuff, but you can only do it when you have the capabilities of technology to power up what you already knew was the right thing, but you didn't have the time and the budgets for. So from a marketing perspective, tremendous advantages that mean we can do a better job for everyone and possibly even lose less of the precious time that our high net worth individuals have.
Exactly, the crucial question of time. Thinking to the future, you've obviously got some very exciting marketing comms things up your sleeve. Can you give us a little sneak peek? What are you most looking forward to?
There's quite a few things. We have a few things we want to investigate in terms of how to live and experience cities differently.
Okay.
Going behind the surface of a city.
Great.
Behind the obvious. We have some incredible stuff on the continuation of our wellness that is coming, and it's going to be more around your rhythm I think rhythm is a very important word, especially for people who live a life that is dictated by other people's agendas and where they have to fit everything in. How do we make you find your rhythm thanks to our services? That's going to be, I think, very, very important. We have a lot of new offering that is the packaged world. So we haven't spoken about it much, but EXO is our biggest marketplace, right? It has over 2,000 aircraft and you can book them in as little as 30 seconds. So
unbelievable.
Absolutely unbelievable in this industry where you normally have to go through the owner, ask for a permit and verify all the 75 steps that need to go through. Exactly, just to confirm a flight. Now you can do it in 30 seconds. So with that, we are trying to offer a lot more weekends and packaged experiences. We called it EXO First, things that you can only do with EXO, and it's first come, first served. We only have a couple available, and they are beautiful, incredible weekends or things to do, because we realize people fly for a reason. Again, big surprise, right? You don't fly to fly, you fly for a reason. So when we put it together with something that you always wanted to do, do you want to go to the Met Gala?
Yes.
Let's make it happen.
Okay, done.
Do you want to go to the Oscars? We made it happen.
Nice.
Do you want to be at the Formula One and meet that certain person? We've made it happen. Do you want to be at Sales GP and maybe try also one of the beautiful boats there? We've done it. So all these are incredible moments that can be really tiresome to create. And we love the idea of being able to offer that at speed and with ease.
Yes.
We just think there is something there.
It makes sense. Oh, we'll really look forward to seeing that. Just before I let you jet off, a final question that I ask for everybody. What is your ultimate luxury?
Having conversations like this, because ultimately we are churning ideas and churning projects day after day after day. And the moments I spend in the classroom with the students or with other professionals helps me take that breathing moment for just a second or half an hour and take the time to observe what I've learned and what I don't know yet. And every time you ask me something I don't know about, that's exciting because I'm going to go out and look for the answer because that is going to be my next project. So thinking time, I think is the answer. That is my luxury.
Yeah.
That is my luxury.
Well, great. Well, happy to help. Thank you so much, Matteo.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining us for Luxury Icons. This has been brought to you by the Luxury Communications Council in conjunction with Trapdoor Productions. If you'd like more information on the Luxury Communications Council, please visit our website, luxurycommunicationscouncil.com.